Independence Day weekend. Today is July 3rd. It's July 4th of July, Independence Day. That's the same thing. When I was growing up, I was taught that the Declaration of Independence was written by Thomas Jefferson in Philadelphia in the summer of 1776. And then I moved to Philadelphia, and we don't think of it that way. We think of it as it was written by Thomas Jefferson at 7th and Market in 1776, because this is a local event. And Thomas Jefferson, I mean, the rhetoric that he used was pretty spectacular. Second paragraph of the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That is a big, bold claim, especially the way that he teed it up. We hold these truths to be self-evident. If you want a rhetorical gimmick that will just add some oomph to your words, you say, what I'm saying now is obviously true. This has to be true, and everybody agrees that what I'm about to say is true. That's what we hold these truths to be self-evident means. And of course, in the paragraph before that, he said that when it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which connected them with another, then they just get to do that. That had never happened before. That had never in history, there has no colonies that had ever broken away from the colonizing power before. So he said, okay, we're breaking up, and we hold these truths to be self-evident that we're allowed to. So, like I say, pretty bold for him. And, there's been some interpretation about the meaning of the words, and the reading was from the Four Agreements, be impeccable with your word. So Thomas Jefferson was actually saying something there and claiming that it had to be true, even though it wasn't true. So what's up with that? Was he lying? Was he using hyperbole to tell a story that wasn't true? Was he being aspirational? Was he saying something that he believed could be true? And that goes, in a lot of cases, to intent, but even more importantly, it goes to consciousness. When we say something like, we are all endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights, including life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that can be aspirational. Maybe we haven't done such a good job so far, but that's who we are claiming to be. That's who we are intending to be. That's when we're opening ourselves up to a brand new possibility. It becomes hyperbole when we say it and we don't know if it's going to be true or not. We have some doubt. It'd be nice if this were true. It's not, but I'm going to say it's going to sound good. And we'll see how it lands and see what kind of trouble it causes in the mind of the person who it's being said to, because they might have a reaction to that. And of course, then there's lying. If we're just saying stuff that we know isn't true, it's because we don't want people to think that we're the sort of people who would say what is true about us. So we just make it up. And we've had some experience with politicians recently just using some combination of aspirational, hyperbolic, or lying to spread the stories that are going around. And Don McElroy says, be impeccable with your word. And that's just not be truthful. That means say what you mean and mean what you say. And be willing to own it. Stand right there in the middle of whatever the claim is that you're making and be that truth. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. And a lot has been made of the fact that Thomas Jefferson at the time owned slaves. Life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, created equal. Well, on a slave plantation, there was a significant power differential between the slave owners and the slaves. There was a certain lack of liberty that was not endowed to everybody who was there. And then there's, all men are created equal. And we take that to mean all humankind is created equal. So that's what he meant. And we update the language of the Declaration of Independence because obviously that's the truth. In the same way that when Ernest Holmes wrote the Science of Mind textbook, he used the word he a lot when he's talking to about everyone, and certain times various groups have wanted to relanguage Ernest Holmes' writing to make the language more modern. At the time, all men are created equal meant all white men were created equal, and just men, because women did not have any rights at that point. They were superseded by the rights and directives and power of men. And it wasn't just white men. There were some white men who were not in the party then either. So it was actually white Anglo-Saxon men. So if you take it that what he meant was that all white Anglo-Saxon men are created equal, and this was Thomas Jefferson and the leaders of the American colonies, all white Anglo-Saxon men, bitching to the king, another white Anglo-Saxon man, that we want this freedom, were they like leaving out everybody else? Were they leaving out all of the people of color? Were they leaving out all of the women? Well, to my mind, no. All are created equal is what that means as far as I'm concerned. All are created equal, endowed with certain unalienable rights, including life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And it doesn't say we're guaranteed happiness. It says we're allowed to pursue happiness. So whatever it is going to make us happy, we can give it a shot. If it doesn't work, it's on us. And there have been so many examples where life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness has not been granted to all of us. George Floyd, a couple of years ago, lost all three. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's not the way he wanted to spend Memorial Day weekend. And the reason that I bring this up, because there's all of the turmoil that's going on now. We have a new Supreme Court that's flexing its muscles and showing that we can reinterpret laws the way that they used to be. And maybe it turns out the Declaration of Independence did mean all white Anglo-Saxon men are created equal and everybody else is an asterisk. I don't think so. Personally, I don't think so. I think that words matter. I think that intent matters. I think that the way we understand those words matters. And what I invite each of you to do is decide what those words mean to you. What's the world that you want to live in? What are your unalienable rights? And claim them. Claim them. These are... The Declaration of Independence does not say that somebody gave us these rights. It says that we have them. We were born with them. That's the truth of who we are. So what's the truth of you? What's the truth of you? What's that good that you're claiming now? Because the words do matter. And if people are trying to reinterpret the words and tell you what the words mean, or what somebody else thought the words meant all those many, many, many years ago, that in the days of muskets, when the Second Amendment was passed, that meant that 18-year-olds with mental problems should be able to get AK-47s. There's still room, I think, for interpretation. What's my world? What world do I want to live in? Because we get to claim it. We get to claim the world that we choose to live in. I choose a world where all persons are created equal, with the unalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And that looks different for everyone. And the key part is, this is not a talk about politics. This is not a talk about news and current events. This is an opportunity to use the observation of current events and the things that are going on in our world around us to remind us that consciousness matters. Political activism is wonderful, and it's important, and it's things to get involved in. You can donate to a cause. You can volunteer to do whatever work in the world you are called to do. And the most important thing to do is, in consciousness, to choose what is the world that you are living in. What is the world that we want to live in together? Because what happened when Thomas Jefferson wrote, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all are created equal," with certain inalienable rights. That started something happening. I believe that it was aspirational. I think that he wasn't trying to tell a story and sell a bill of goods. I think that he and the rest of the founding fathers believed that, and in the broader sense, including that owning slaves, even though it was economically important, was inhumane and personally unacceptable. And Thomas Jefferson got to go through his own personal transformation about that. He hadn't by the time he wrote the Declaration of Independence. So yeah, definitely aspirational. But isn't that what a practical prayer is? Ernest Holmes tells us that we can look a fact in the face and know something better. And while I'm sitting there looking the fact in the face, whether it is a challenging situation with a loved one, or a financial challenge, or a diagnosis, or another bump in the road, or a difficulty, or a crisis, I can use that experience to describe where I am now. We can all do that. We can also all say, this is my current situation, and it is not going the way I like it. It is not where I want to be. It is not the way I want to be living. And we can also claim and know and understand and state and be very clear that's not the truth of who we are. That is the current experience that we have been having recently. That is current state. That does not define where we're headed. That does not necessarily define who we are, unless we decide to keep it. Unless we decide that whatever situation I'm in, for whatever reason, okay, it's never going to change. And then, of course, we create our new experience, and it seems to never change. But it's not because it can't change. It's just because that's where we are with it. That's where the doubt comes in. And we, each of us individually and all together, have the ability to claim something new. Taking it back to principle. There is one infinite creative power that creates everything. Everything. In the beginning, there was just that one creative power. And it began creating and continued to create. And it continued to share itself. And it continues to share itself as every part of its creation. Everything is that divine presence taking its own particular and specific form. Includes each of us. Each one of us is an individualization, a personalization, a particularization of that infinite creative power. And we're using it. And we're using it, when we say, I'll never succeed. And we're using it when we say, I have an inalienable right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So get involved in creating the experience that you are seeking. It is possible that the still small voice of spirit, once you say, this is what I'm claiming, is going to tell you, this is yours to do. These are the steps on the road for you to be taking next to get into that next experience. There was some stuff to be done in the world after the Declaration of Independence was written. There was the king didn't take it well. So there was a bit of a disagreement for a little while, and we worked it out. And the same thing happens when we set a new intention in consciousness. We create something new, and then it starts to unfold, and then we get to be involved in whatever that unfolding is. So be clear about what it is that you're inviting. Be willing to step in and be that good that you wish to see in the world. And together, each of us individually and all of us together are bringing in new good. That is what independence is. We are free to choose and free to move and free to use that creative power. So choose and use it well, because we all deserve the good that's on our way now. So it is. Thank you.